All right, let's get started. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Sonia, and I'm a curriculum developer here at NextGen Personal Finance. And I'm glad to have you here today with me on this webinar to prepare for the summit that's actually happening next weekend. So not this coming weekend, but the next weekend already. So at NGPF, we're pretty excited that this is starting really, really soon, and can't wait for it to actually to start and to meet you guys in person. Some of you we have met, and others we are waiting to meet in person. So we're really excited and looking forward to it. All right, let me kick things off with a poll. And I want to ask you guys a question. So let me launch this. All right. So the question here is, which best describes your relationship with Google Docs at your school? So take about 10 to 20 seconds to answer. Let me share it with you. So, which best describes your relationship with Google Docs at your school? So, about a little less than third, all teachers and students use it. A little less than third, some teachers and students use it, including me. A few of you guys said some teachers and students use it, but I don't. And I use it, but I'm not sure about others. And a few of you said we don't use it at all. So this is actually really great because it shows that there's a wide variety of familiarity and of the use of Google Docs at your school. So that is perfect. I have one more question to ask you guys. And go ahead and answer this one. How would you rank your own skill level with using Google Docs and Google Drive? Go ahead and take 20 seconds to answer this one. All right, 10 more seconds. I think there's just a few of you who haven't voted, and perfect. All right, let's see the results here. So your own skill level, a few of you said, perfect, I'm a clean slate, so I'm brand new to this, so welcome, that's great. A lot of you guys say that you just know the basics, which is perfect. I'm competent, I'm really good, and no one classified themselves as an expert, which I guess makes sense. You know, if you're an expert, you probably wouldn't be on this webinar maybe, but I always feel like there's something that you can learn. But great, this is very handy for me as I facilitate the webinar and I kind of understand the level of expertise. That being said, if at any time during the webinar I'm moving too quickly, or if you want me to show something again, or if you have any questions, go ahead and just type it in the questions box for the webinar, and I will try to address them as soon as possible or either at the end of the webinar. So. All right. It's also a good chance for you to let me know if you're having any audio issues or if you can't hear me very well, but that's kind of the place that I'll keep my eye on in case there are any audio issues. Great. So what I would like to now do is move on to the next slide. So again, let me know if you can't see anything on my screen. All right. So like I said, my name is Sonia. I'm one of the curriculum developers here at NextGen Personal Finance, and I'll be meeting you guys in person very soon, so I'm looking forward to that. And today we're really going to be talking about Google Drive and how it's different than Microsoft Office. We'll be reviewing some of the basics with Google Drive, how to work with Google Documents and Google Folders, and then how to distribute NGPF documents to your students. So like if you come to our website, what do you do from there? Then how do you collect those same documents from your students? And then I'm going to give you guys a quick walkthrough of some of the core NGPF documents that we have in using Google Documents. All right. So let's get started then. So some of the differences between Google Drive and Office are that with Google Drive, you don't need any software. So as you guys, you might be familiar with Microsoft Office. If you're not, it is a software that you have to actually download onto your computers. But Google Drive, you don't need any software. You're not actually downloading anything. It's just all in the cloud, and it's a website that you go to. So for that reason, there are no compatibility issues when it comes to Google Drive. And what I mean by that is, if you're familiar with Microsoft Office, you know that there are different versions of Office. So like there's Office 2006, 2009, 2000, I think 13 or 14, and so on and so forth. And sometimes I found that if you have a different version or an outdated version of Office, and you receive a file from someone who has a more updated version, sometimes the formatting can be a little bit different because of the different versions, or sometimes straight up you can't even open the file. I've had that happen to me a few times. So with Google Drive, again, that's not an issue because there's no software to begin with. And if Google updates anything, then it's going to be universal. So everyone would see those changes at the same time. Also, because Google Drive is on the cloud, everything is saved automatically and it's all saved to the cloud, which is awesome because I remember when I used to use Word, even growing up, I would constantly be scared of losing any changes that I made to a Microsoft Office file. So I would be pressing, I would go to File Save like every 15 seconds. And so for Google Drive, you don't have to do that. Everything is saved automatically. You can even see here at the very top of my presentation, there's this line here that says all changes saved in Drive. That happens automatically, and I think it happens, I think it automatically saves every few seconds or every minute, however Google has it set. So that's really great. You can, again, because it's in the cloud, also access any document from any computer or device as long as you have an internet connection. That's all you need. So again, the difference between Office is it's a file that you have physically saved onto your laptop or desktop, and then usually to send it to someone or to access it, you have to like email it to yourself or email it to someone else. With Google Drive, because it's in the cloud, it's like your email. You can log in from any device, your phone, a tablet, a computer, and you can access that document wherever you are, which is really, really convenient. The great part about all of this, and the reason for why we, NGPF, have our curriculum on Google Drive is because of these reasons. One of the main reasons is that whenever we update our curriculum, and we do like to keep our curriculum updated because, as you guys know, in personal finance, things are constantly changing. So whenever we update, say, something in the tax unit, you would see those changes immediately. So there's no textbook for NGPF. There's nothing that we have to print and physically send to you. The second we update it in our Google Doc, you're able to see that if you were to go on the website that day or the next day or whenever. And I will say that if you've never used Google Docs or Google Drive, it's best to have it with a Gmail-based account because that's how you get access to Google Drive. So you do need to sign up for a Gmail-based account. That being said, if you have like a school email address that's affiliated with Gmail, it might still be a Gmail account, but it doesn't end with @gmail.com. It might end with like your school domain name or something. So just keep that in mind. If you're not sure if you have a Gmail account for any reason, just check with like your school's tech supervisor, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you figure it out. All right, any questions on the difference between Office and Drive before I move on? All right, sounds great. Looks like everyone is pretty clear on that, so I will move on. One thing I wanted to show you guys was if I go to our site, ngpf.org, you'll notice here, I'm going to just go to one of our unit pages. I'll just go to the saving unit. And here on our unit page, you can see our lessons and assessments. So I'm just going to click on 2.1, which is the first lesson. I just wanted to highlight something before we moved on, that for every one of these lessons, you can view it on a Google Doc or you can view it on Guru. And I didn't want you guys to get confused between Google Doc and Guru. So Guru is basically a third-party platform that we also host some of our curriculum on, and it basically puts everything in a playlist format. But it's a completely different platform, and I know that Google and Guru can sound very similar. So I didn't want you guys to get confused between the two. Just when you're navigating our site, just know that this webinar is specifically focusing only on Google Docs. If you want to learn a little bit more about Guru, we do have some archived webinars on our webinar page, and you can learn a little bit more about Guru and how to set up an account and how to use Guru if you're interested. But for today, we're just talking about Google Docs. Awesome. So going back to Google Docs, I just wanted to talk about I kind of divided the skills here into different stages. So I like to call this stage 1, which is just the basics. So let me open up one of our lesson guides. And I'm actually going to open this up in an incognito tab because right now I'm logged into my NGPF email and it won't have the same settings. So this is just an incognito tab. There we go. So this is the same NGPF lesson 2.1, and you'll see here that it's in view only mode, which is how you guys will see it when you open up a document from our site. So the reason it's in view only mode is because the document is kind of locked, so that way anyone who comes to that document can't edit anything. So you can see right now, whoopsie. I can't actually alter any of the text here. I'm just highlighting stuff, but I can't actually type anything or change the document in any way. I can't really insert comments or do anything like that. And the reason for that, like I said, is because we don't want everyone, if there are 100 people on this lesson guide from all over the country, we don't want everyone to be tweaking the original copy of the lesson guide. But I will show you guys then what you guys can do later on to create your own copy and how to modify and edit that. So basically the first few things I wanted to show you guys as what I consider like the basics or the essentials of Google Docs is kind of the things that you can do from here. So you came to our site, you got a lesson guide, what can you do from here? Well, the first thing you can do is you can print a copy by going to File, Print, just like Microsoft Office. You can also download it as a Word document or a PDF. Those are kind of the two formats that I've generally used or I've seen other people use. So you just do File, Download as, Word, PDF. And then finally, you can also share the document with other people just by clicking here in the upper right-hand corner on Share. Or I think you can also go to File, Share. I like to just usually use the blue button. And what happens when you click the blue button is that this box pops up, and you can go ahead and enter in any of the emails. So if I wanted to share this, I'll just share this like with myself or with one of my other email addresses. So I'll just put it there. I'll put my other email address for Next Gen Personal Finance, and then I can add a little note like check this out and send. Okay. The other way that you can share is you can simply copy this link here. You can also press copy link, and then you can send that link to whoever you want to send it to. So those are the three things: File, Print, File, Download as, and then Share. All right. Let me pause here to see if there are any questions. All right. Okay, looks like we are good. So I'm going to go ahead to the next slide here. Great. So this is now kind of the second stage of skills that I like to call. So you know now that you can print a document from the site, but what about if you wanted to make your own copy? What if you wanted to actually edit your own version? So let me go back to the one that I just pulled up. So right now you can see that this is in view only mode. I'm currently logged into my personal Gmail account, and so that is linked to my own Google Drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Make a Copy, And this box pops up, and you can kind of rename the title whatever you want. So I'm just going to say Sonia's copy of NGPF lesson 2.1. And it's going to be in My Drive. My Drive is like the default folder in Google Drive for your account. But if you have other folders set up, and I will go into how to set up more folders, you can go into My Drive and you can actually select multiple folders that are in there. So it's kind of similar to Microsoft Office in that sense. So I'm going to click OK. And here is my copy. You can see that the title of it has changed. And you can also see that your capabilities have changed on the screen. So this was the original one. Remember, it says view only. But this one, the view only button is gone and the share button is there. And suddenly I can type text, I can delete it, I can alter stuff. So I'm going to just type something here. I can type here. You can change, this is your document now to completely modify, edit however you want. One thing to keep in mind though is that now that you've made your own copy, or now that I've made my own copy here, if NGPF changed something in the original document here that says view only, that change will not come up in my document because they're not connected in any way. So if I were to use this lesson tomorrow and then I know that I'm not going to use it for another year, I would definitely want to come back to the NGPF website and make sure that I have the most updated version of the site. Of the lesson guide. So that's just something to keep in mind, that when you make your own copy, make sure you've got the most updated version. Let me see if we have any questions here. Oh, looks like there is one. So I got a question saying, did you give the link for the NGPF folder? I haven't spoken yet about folders yet, but I might be misunderstanding the question. If whoever submitted that question, if you can specify just a little bit more by what you mean by that, I'd be happy to answer the question. So I'll come back in a few minutes and see if you've had a chance to clarify. All right. Let me see if there's anything else here. Oh, one more question. Is there a way to know when a document is updated? Great question. So this has not been rolled out for all of our curriculum yet, so it may not be here. So yeah, this document here does not reflect the change, but if you're using our semester course, you may have noticed that our footers have changed. So it'll still say ngpf.org here, but then instead of this phrase here on the right, it'll actually say last updated and give you a date. So most of our activities and projects have had this, and all of our semester course lessons have these new footers, but unfortunately we haven't had the chance to go through all of our full curriculum. So I know that's something that we're working on, but it just hasn't been done to 100% yet. All right. Let me see there are some questions rolling in, which are great. Let me take another look here. Yeah, so I had another question that asked about the same thing, like how do I know that I have the most recent version? Again, we are kind of working to get those footers in place so that you guys don't have to keep checking word for word to see if it's an identical version. But for the meantime, I'm sorry that kind of is the best way to do it. But we are working on those footers. Okay, I have another question saying, how do we get the documents you are showing? Oh, okay, I think this is a clarification for the first question. So the way that you get the documents that I'm showing, and I will show this a little bit more detail, so thank you, that just reminded me that I'm going a little too quickly. All you have to do is go to ngpf.org, which is our website, and I will give you a more detailed breakdown of this at the end of the webinar, but this is just a quick review. This is just our home page, and I just selected one of our units. So I'll select budgeting for this demo. And this is our budgeting unit page. So on this unit page, you're going to get all of our lesson plans and assessments. You'll see all of the activities, projects, and other kinds of curriculum that we offer on the right-hand side. So this is kind of like my personal favorite place to go. If you're brand new to NGPF and you're like, where should I go to get started? I really like coming to these unit pages because it gives a broad overview of kind of like almost everything that we offer tied to a specific unit. So all I had done was I had clicked on 6.1 or on the first lesson, and then I pressed View Google Doc. And what that does is that it opens up the lesson guide. Right? And then from there, I had just done File, Make a Copy. So I hope that explained that. Let me know if I need to go over it again, and if I do, then I'll do it kind of at the end of the webinar. All right, looks like there are no more questions for now. Great, looks like I've resolved that question, so that's great. I will move on, and I'll keep checking that question box. Thank you guys for submitting your questions. All right, let me go back to my copy of that Google Doc that I had created, if I can find it. There we go. So I'm back now on the copy that I had made. So remember, I went to the site, I pulled up a Google Doc of a lesson plan, I went to File, Make a Copy, and then this new copy was created, all right? Again, you can print this, you can edit this, like I said, you can do kind of whatever you want with this document. The next thing I'll show you guys is how do you share this with your students. You can click on that blue share button here that I just did, and then you can enter in your kids, your students' email addresses. So again, if I wanted to put, I'll just put some of my coworkers here that you guys probably know, like Jessica and Laura, and et cetera, et cetera. So I would enter in their email addresses. Conversely, if you don't want to enter in like 40 email addresses, you could just get the shareable link, which is, I just clicked up here in the right-hand corner. It gives me this link, and then you can just share this link with your students if that's easier. All right. So I'm going to just press done. Also, when you share with other people, so let's say I'm sharing it with my colleague Jessica, you can give your students or whoever you're sharing the document with different levels of editing access or viewing access. So here you can see on this little pencil icon that I just chose, I can select whether I want Jessica to have editing access, commenting access only, or only viewing access. So with viewing access, she can't do anything to the document. So it's kind of like how we have our documents set up on our site. When you come to the site, it's in view only mode. Commenting access just allows her to view the document, but she can't edit it, but it would give her the capability to just insert any comments that she has. And then editing access lets her do whatever within the document. She can change anything. So just keep that in mind that you have those three options. So I'm going to press done. And let me pause here to see if there are any other questions. Awesome. So I'm going to ask you guys another question. And it's about Google Folders. So go ahead and take 20 seconds to answer this question. Cool, I see some answers rolling in. Awesome. 10 more seconds. 5 more seconds. I think there's just a few more people who are waiting to vote. All right. And let's look at the results. So when using Google Docs, do you organize your documents into folders, which are AKA Google Drive? One person, or not one person, a few people said, honestly, I don't know if I use Google Drive or folders. Totally fine. Some other people said that you do use Google Docs and you organize them into Drive. Perfect. Other people said they don't organize them into Drive. And then some people are saying, I don't know, I'm completely new to all of this, which is totally fine. Thank you so much for your answers. So the reason I wanted to ask that was because, if you haven't already guessed, the next thing we're going to talk about is Google folders. So let me go back to my incognito tab here. So the way you access Google Drive, you have two ways that you can access them. One, you can open up a new tab and you can type in drive.google.com. And it's then going to open up your Google Drive. Okay. The other way that you can do it is, I'm trying to see if it's here, is usually there is a 9 tab. Let me see if I can get to my, actually I'll show you another one. Let me pull up my Gmail here. There we go. There'll usually be like a little 9-tile tab here up in the upper right-hand corner. So if you're logged into your Gmail, if you're logged into something else, there'll be this like little 9-tile tab. And if you click on that, you can go to Drive. So those are the two ways, drive.google.com or the 9-tile tab. Okay. Any questions on how to get to Google Drive? Perfect. So now let me open up my incognito tab. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. I hope it's not too confusing. And let me show you guys how to create your own folder. So once you're in Drive, so you can see here that I've selected my Drive. I'm just going to say New Folder. And then I'm going to call it, let's say, Webinar Folder, Create. And you can see here that it started, that it was created. So I'm gonna open that up and now I have this empty folder, okay? Any questions on how I created the folder at all? Let's go to new. Perfect. So now you can also see that it's classified like my Drive webinar folder. And now what you can do, there are a few things here that you can do. Let's say that I wanted the lesson guide that I had created and I wanted to put that in this folder. The best way to do that is you can click on this file icon up here at the top where it says move to, and then it'll give you this menu here. So I could go, okay, I'm in Drive, I'm gonna select my Drive, I'm gonna go to webinar folder, and I can do move here. So now when I go back to my folder, there it is. Perfect. You can also change the view of this. So if you don't want it to be in list format, I believe you can change it to kind of like this tile format. I kind of like the list format because it takes up less space, but that's just me. The same thing that you can do with Google Docs, you can do with Google Folders. So if I go back to the top here of my folder, I can share the folder with whoever I want. So let's say you want to create one folder for every single classroom that you have. So like if I say that this, instead of saying webinar folder, I say period 2 personal finance class. And I wanted to share it with those students that are in that class. I just go to share. And again, just like Google Docs, I can start entering in the names of the people that I want to have access. Again, you have options here. You can do view only, but if you want your students to actually be able to add their own documents to this folder, then you need to make sure that they have this first line of capability. All right. Perfect. And obviously the functionality of folders is basically organization. It's just like Microsoft Office where you don't want hundreds and hundreds of loose copies or documents in your drive. You want to kind of be able to organize it in some fashion. So that is the only point of folders here. Let's see here if I have anything else to add about folders. I think that's it. Let me see if there are any questions before we move on. All right, looks like there is one question. Let me just quickly read this. Okay, so I have a question here. If you decide to share the document with your students, how do you ensure that student one doesn't share it with student two? This happened in my classroom, resulting in having to check the ownership of each student to see if they used an original document. Good question. To my knowledge, I don't think you can prevent students from sharing documents with each other because at least not that I have seen. I don't think that there's any way to prevent that, although that would be an amazing feature if you were maybe distributing a test or an assessment or something. That makes a lot of sense. So to my knowledge, I don't think you can prevent that. But I can definitely look into it and get back to you and see if there's some feature that I don't know about. So, but great question. I'll look into that for sure. Okay, let's go on. So you guys now know the basics of Google Docs and Google Drive, and you also know how to make your own copy. You know how to make folders and organize your documents, and you know also how to share documents and folders with your students. So that's a lot of skill right there with Google Drive, and it's a lot that actually lets you do a ton of stuff. But you're probably now wondering, okay, great. How do I actually get these Google documents to my students? So there are a few things that you can do. One is simply you can do file print and give them a physical copy, right? That's one thing that you can do. You can also send it to your students as an attachment. So let me show you guys how to do that. It's very easy. You just do file, email as an attachment. And because everything is linked with your email account through Google, you can automatically start to type in their email addresses, send them a message, hey, turn this in tomorrow, and then send it to them. You can also send a copy to yourself, kind of like a receipt. So I think that's pretty cool. The other way that you can have students access a document, so we're now on this third option, is if you wanted your students to get to a specific activity. Let's say you're doing the budgeting unit, and you tell your students, okay, we're going to do this very first activity here on the NGPF website. Go to the budgeting unit, tell your students to go here on the page, click this. I'm going to close these tabs. And then as a student, I would see this. Now remember, this would be in view only mode because right now I'm in my NGPF account, so it's slightly different. But as a student, they would have to go ahead and make their own copy before they could make any changes. So just remember that if you do send your students to the NGPF website to get a copy of an activity or a project or something, they will have to make their own copy. That's a very important step. Okay. I have one more question here really quickly. I have an MSN account and an Outlook account. Should I sign up for a Gmail account before coming to the summit next weekend? Ooh, great question. Yes, I would highly encourage you to create a Gmail account. To my knowledge, at least, and again, this is something else that I will double check after the webinar and get back to you about. I don't think you can use Google Drive with a non-Gmail account. I think like you can't have like a Hotmail account or something else to get a Google Drive. So I would encourage you to sign up for a Gmail account. If I find that that's not the case, I will email you immediately and let you know. But for now, I would definitely encourage you to sign up for a Gmail account. Great question. All right. Okay, so in addition to printing, emailing a document as an attachment, and having your students actually go to the website and getting a document, like I said, I already showed you guys this, but you can share the document with your students directly by clicking the blue share button at the top and typing their email in here. The other thing that you could do is you can create a folder that like I had just done, share that folder with the students and say, hey, you guys now all have access to that folder. You can find any documents that you need in that folder. So you have you have quite a variety of different options. Also, I will be emailing these slides to you guys later, so you will have these slides here as a reference once the webinar is done. And a quick reminder, students should not create an account on NGPF. So if you haven't already, please do create a teacher account on the NGPF website. All you have to do is go to ngpf.org, create a free account, and a free teacher account will give you access to all of our assessments and our answer keys. Students should not create any type of account on NGPF because they won't need the assessments and answer keys. And then to access any activities or projects that they have to complete, they can get all of those on our site without an account. So that's just a quick reminder there. And again, once they get their own copy, they'll have to make their own copy of that document. Awesome. Let me see if I have any more questions. Perfect. All right. So now you guys know how to distribute Google Docs or NGPF materials to your students. So now you're thinking, great, now how do I collect those back? So again, obviously if you printed those out, just collect the physical copies and you're done. The same thing that if you emailed the document as an attachment to your students, they can do the same thing right back. So let's say that they created their own copy and they're editing it and they're like, great, I'm done. They can then go to File, Email as an attachment and send to you. Which reminds me that students, when using Google Drive, they will also need a Gmail account for all of this to work. So just keep that in mind. And in the same way that if you used a shared folder or if you shared an activity with your students using the blue share button at the top, students can do the exact same thing. If they made their own copy, that copy is now theirs. You won't be able to see it. So what they'll have to do is they'll have to share it right back by clicking the blue button. They'll have to type your email here. And then they can give you the same level of access. You can tell them like, hey, I need you to share it with me and give me editing access or give me commenting access or whatever. They can also, if you created that shared folder, they can then put their document into that shared folder. Let me pause here since I know that there are some questions coming in. Yes, someone said the other method for distributing is through Google Classroom. Thank you for bringing that up. I am going to be talking about Google Classroom at the very kind of near the end of the webinar or coming pretty soon. I just didn't want people to get confused between Drive and Google Classroom. And one more thing. Perfect. So yeah, there are some Google Classroom comments here, and I will be talking about those. But thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. Any questions about distributing Google documents to your students or about collecting them back? You can see that once you kind of get those basic features that I was talking about, like making a copy, creating a shared folder, or sharing the document with you, that once you know how to do that, then your students can also use those exact same functionalities to share documents back to you. Awesome. Looks like there are no questions. So perfect segue. I will now talk about Google Classroom. It's like you guys read my mind. So Google Classroom is different than Google Drive, and that's why I wanted to separate the two before I spoke about Classroom. Google Classroom, if you haven't heard of it already, is a very, very popular, basically kind of like an LMS, I would say, obviously created by Google, and it basically has the exact same features that we've been talking about throughout this entire webinar for Drive, but it's a little bit more tailored for education. So let me open up a sample Google Classroom that I created. So let me kind of start off from the basics here. I am logged into my personal Gmail account. So just pretend you don't see anything that's on my screen right now. And if I wanted to access Google Classroom, you have to go to the 9-tile tab up on the top. You scroll down and you'll see here that there's an icon that says Classroom. So you click on that. Then, if it's your first time ever coming to this page, you won't see this sample class that I've created. Instead, what you can do is you can create or join a class. So what I would do is I created a class, and then I did this, and then I filled in all the information and I created a class. I won't walk you through all those little steps, but basically I created a sample class for the purposes of this webinar. And I kind of gave it like a little theme photo and whatnot. So this is just the basic look of Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is great because you can create a Google Classroom for every single period that you teach. So here you can see I said sample class 101, period 5. I would create a new classroom for period 4, period 2, what have you. Basically, the way I kind of think about it is if you didn't want to use Google Classroom, the way you would then use Google Drive is you would probably create one shared folder for each classroom, and within that folder you can create like subfolders. Google Classroom basically automates, or not automates, but it makes it a little bit more organized, and it has more of that kind of education feel to it. So if you wanted students to join this classroom, you would simply give them a code, a join code, here at the top. So I just click students and you can invite students. So let's say this is period 5 and Jessica is in period 5. I would add her, and let's say my other colleague Laura is also in there. I would invite them to the classroom, and then they would use this class code to actually join the classroom. So once they're in that classroom, anything I post on this kind of like homepage, it's kind of like Facebook, anything I post here, they will automatically be able to see it. And because it's specific to that period, everything is kind of automatically organized for you. And I think that's why it's so easy and nice to use. So let me pause here before I go on to see if there are more questions. Someone is asking, the seminar at the summit next weekend, is the course on Google Drive or on the Google Classroom? I believe that there is a session that's going to help you set up your own Google Classroom. And while you're in that session, you'll probably get a little bit more exposure to Drive, but I think it focuses on Classroom. That's my understanding. Great question. So let me go back here to my Classroom. The great thing about Classroom, like I said, is that it's already integrated with your Google Drive. So because I'm already logged into my personal account, I can come here to the bottom and I can create an announcement, an assignment, a question, or I can reuse a post. So I'm going to create an assignment, and I'm going to title it, I don't know, homework 4th March 8th, 2018. And I can put some instructional options like, when making your own copy, please put your name in the title, so that way when I receive the copy back from students, I'm not having to open up each doc. I can just see their name in the title. I can put a due date, so I'll put the due date as tomorrow. Whoopsie. Topic, I can create a topic, but I won't do that. But you can see here that the real strength is because it's connected to your Google Drive, I can click here on the Google Drive symbol, and it'll open up the copies of the documents that I had just made, which is awesome. So I'm going to select Sonia's copy of NGPF lesson 2.1, which I had made before. And one more important feature that I will point out here is, again, just like the sharing features, you have different options. You can have students only be able to view the file. You can have students be able to edit the file. And my favorite is you can make a copy for each student. This, I think, is a very important feature because let's say if you have an activity that you want to give to all your students would then have to make a copy of that activity, but by selecting this, it does it for them. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to say assign, and it's taking a little bit, but there we go. It's going to post it right here. Homework, my instructions, each student will get a copy. And it even tells you how many people have done it and how many people have not done it, which is awesome. You can also edit it later. You can copy the link. You can delete it. You can move it to the top if it's not at the top already. Another great feature of Google Classroom is that if your students have a question, they can actually type here, like Miss Sonia, please, blah, 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 right? And then they can post, and then you as the teacher can see that and respond back, like, here's the answer. So I think that's just a really great feature. If you were using Google Drive, you wouldn't have that functionality of kind of this commenting back and forth, and other students wouldn't be able to see that either. So that's another great advantage of using Google Classroom. One other thing that I'll show that I also like is you can post a question. And I really like these because they can help facilitate classroom discussion about something maybe you were talking about in class and you were like, hey, maybe the homework or something will be to, everyone has to post their thoughts on this question. And I think it's a really great way for students to continue a conversation outside of the classroom and continue maybe talking about something that you had just covered. So I just wanted to highlight that. I also want to highlight the announcement feature. So let's say you've changed the deadline for a project or for some homework. This is a really great way for you to kind of highlight that and send it to your students in case you want to notify them when they're not in class. All right. That was a lot on Google Classroom and a lot on Google Drive and just a lot on Google in general. So let me pause here. Let me check back to my question box and see if I have any. I do have a question, but it's not related to this, so I'll come back to the end of it. Okay, great. I will move on then. We already talked about questions. All right, so the very last thing I wanted to talk about with you guys today was the NGPF curriculum and how to actually navigate the different types of documents that we have on our site. So I thought that this little web map here would make things look easy, but kind of looking back on it, I think that it looks a little intimidating, and I promise that our website is not meant to be intimidating. So I may or may not keep this graphic here. But basically, because you guys are all going to be coming to Summit, woohoo, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough of what are kind of the core NGPF documents. So I'm going to go back to our homepage, and I'm going to select a different unit because I love these unit pages. I'm going to do career. So if you're completely brand new to NGPF and you're just like, wow, I have really no idea where to start, I would, again, tell you to come to the unit page. And I just want to highlight some of the core documents here. So we're here on this little map here. We're on the unit page. And I'm going to walk you through the unit plan and the lesson guide. So I'm back on the unit page. The first link at the top here is a unit plan. And I'm going to view it in Google Docs. So this is kind of like essential document number 1. The unit plan has all of the lessons that are in that unit listed here. Okay, so you can see in the career unit, there are 8 lessons. There's a unit test. There are 2 case studies, okay? For each one of these lessons, there's a link that goes straight to the lesson guide. And within the unit plan, you can actually see in that lesson, how many videos are there, how many activities are there, how many articles, etc., etc. It'll also give the approximate time for any projects that are maybe in that lesson, and any comprehension questions. So definitely encourage you to check out a unit plan if you haven't already. The second kind of essential core document that I want to show you guys is the lesson guide itself, which I've brought up a few times. So I'm going to open up the Google Doc. This is the actual lesson guide. I made a copy of one earlier when I was showing you guys the Google Classroom. The main thing I wanted to highlight in here is that the lesson guide is for you, the teacher, and the accompanying kind of worksheet that goes along with the lesson is always, always, always going to be resource number 2, the student activity packet. So I'm going to click on the student activity packet. I'm going to open it up. And this is actually the worksheet that either you want to print out, or you want to tell your students to make a copy of, or you want to share with your students. And this is the worksheet that they're going to fill out as you are doing the lesson that day. And all of these questions that are in the student activity packet are listed in the lesson guide. So that's just a core thing that I wanted to highlight, was lesson guide is for you, the teacher, and student activity packet is for the students. I think some teachers don't realize that the student activity packet is in the lesson guide, and so that was kind of the reason for why I wanted to explicitly walk you through that. Awesome. The next thing I want to highlight to you guys, we went to the unit pages, are the course maps. So some of you guys, like I said, I said that I love these unit pages, right? But this is kind of what we like to call our full curriculum. If, on the other hand, you're kind of looking for our semester course or kind of a shorter course, you go to curriculum tab at the top, and a lot of people like to use our semester course, so I'm going to go there. And it's going to bring you to this landing page that'll allow you to, it gives you a little description of what the semester course is, what the format is, and the different units that we cover. So you'll notice the semester course does not cover all 11 or 12 units, it only covers 10. And if you want to learn more about what the semester course covers, you just select this, the course map, by clicking the button at the bottom. And this is kind of like a big overview of the semester course itself. I'm not going to go into the semester course. If you want to learn about the semester course, we have a number of archived webinars that cover the semester course, so definitely encourage you to look at those. But I just wanted you guys to know that we have course maps for all of our individual courses and workshops. All right, finally, assessments. So you guys are probably thinking, how do I get to the good stuff? How do I get to the assessments here? How do I get them to my students? So if you go to curriculum assessments on the NGPF website, it's going to take you to this page that looks very similar to our units page, but it's the assessments page. And if you're not logged into your teacher account, as I am right now, I'm logged out. If I try to click on the assessments page, you'll see that it's for verified teachers only. Once you create a teacher account, you log in, as I'm doing now, you'll see that you can then access them. So this is how you would get to the assessments, but obviously students should not be creating these accounts, and we do verify every single account that is created to make sure that it is a teacher who is signing up and not a student. We have had some very clever students try to sign up, and it didn't end well for them. So just keep that in mind, that you do need that teacher account. And finally, you need the teacher account to access any answer keys. Once you sign up for a free teacher account, you will receive an email. Once you've been verified, you'll receive an email with a link to all the answer keys that we have. All right. Again, that was kind of a lot of information thrown at you, but I do think that that kind of info is going to be very helpful when you attend Summit, if you weren't familiar already with those kind of documents. So let me pause again to see if there are any questions. Let me see here. It looks like one came in. How long does it take to get verified? Great question. Less than 24 hours. We have wonderful people here on our team who you will meet at Summit. Laura being one of them, Danielle, who is another one. They're in charge of all the teacher accounts, and they do a wonderful job of staying on top of it all and verifying teachers. So if you create one now, you'll probably be verified by tomorrow at the latest. So, and I can even give them a heads up like, hey, this person was on my webinar. Go ahead and sign them up. So awesome. I already paused for questions, but I will keep my eye on that box. That is kind of the end of our Google Docs, Google Drive webinar. So I again want to thank you so much for joining me. I knew I kind of went through it maybe a little bit quickly, but we did have a lot of information to cover. So I thank you for listening and for all of your awesome questions. Please feel free to sign up for any of our upcoming webinars. We have a great one coming up in just a few weeks on weaving math and personal finance in the classroom. We have another one coming up on the semester course, so that course that I just pulled up on the site, and another really great webinar on teaching through interactives, which is one of our most popular products on the NGPF website. So again, please sign up for a teacher account if you don't already have one. There will be a survey that launches once the webinar ends, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could take that. Sign up for other webinars and practice using Google Docs and Drive if you already haven't started. So excited to see you guys in SF next weekend. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at sonia@ngpf.org. I'll stay on the line to see if there are any other questions that come in. And yes, but if you guys need to go, feel free. I'll stay on the line to answer any questions that came. Thank you so much. All right, I see that there is a question about Summer Institute. So there's a question that says, do you recommend applying for the Summer Institute even if we are attending the summit next week? Great question. Actually, let me see here. Laura is really the best person to ask that question. So I would email Laura at ngpf.org. And she can kind of help you with the Summer Institute kind of info there. So I hope that helps. I had some other questions. Great, I saw some, there's a comment that came in saying, I registered today, which is fantastic. Someone asked, when using Google Classroom, can you organize files into folders? Ooh, that is a good question. I'm not actually entirely sure. But what I can do is I can get back to you about that question. Because yeah, that's a really good one. I'll do a little bit of some homework and I'll look into that and get back to you. And I think that's it for the questions. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. But if that's it, then I will see you guys in just a few days. Enjoy the rest of your day and thank you again for joining me.